The Battle of Hamburger Hill stands as one of the bloodiest and most controversial conflicts of the Vietnam War. Taking place from May 10th to May 20th, 1969, this brutal fight occurred at Hill 937 in the A Shau Valley, a location of strategic importance. The savage nature of the battle and the bloodshed led American soldiers to refer to the hill as Hamburger Hill, as the intensity of the fighting made it feel like a meat grinder, turning soldiers into casualties one by one. This hill became not just a military objective, but also a test of human endurance, pushing the limits of the human spirit. Hamburger Hill was a hill located deep in Vietnam in the A Shau Valley. This valley held strategic importance due to its proximity to the Laos border and had long been used as a supply route by the North Vietnamese Army, NVA. The area was a critical transit point for the NVA to send troops and supplies into South Vietnam. When American troops from the 101st Airborne Division set out to capture Hill 937, they knew they would face a solid defense from NVA forces. However, they could never have anticipated how fierce and challenging the battle would be. Hamburger Hill would not only be a military objective, but also a battlefield that would test the courage and endurance of many men. On May 10th, 1969, American and South Vietnamese forces launched a determined assault to capture the strategically important hill. The American 101st Airborne Division organized a comprehensive operation to secure control of this hill in the A Shau Valley. However, the North Vietnamese Army had made extensive preparations to defend the area, making the American advance exceedingly difficult. The steep slopes of the hill, its slippery terrain, and dense vegetation restricted the soldiers' mobility. Additionally, the continuous rain turned the battlefield into a swamp, complicating every step they took. Under these conditions, American troops had to contend with both the fierce resistance of the enemy and the harsh realities of nature. Capturing the hill was not just a military victory, it was a fight for survival. The North Vietnamese Army, NVA, skillfully leveraged the natural landscape of Hamburger Hill to gain a significant advantage. The NVA forces were well acquainted with the area and experienced in guerrilla warfare tactics, expertly luring American troops into traps. As American soldiers attempted to advance toward the summit, they encountered a series of booby traps, planted explosives, camouflaged bunkers, and strategically positioned machine gun nests. Along the hill, various bunkers, tunnels, and trenches constructed by the NVA further strengthened their resistance. These robust defenses were meticulously positioned to wear down American forces, complicating their advance with every step. The relentless machine gun fire and mortar attacks quickly escalated American casualties. Despite making only slight progress with each assault, their efforts were met with fierce resistance. Each fallen comrade deepened the pain of war, turning the conflict into a struggle that tested the very will of the American soldiers. The NVA's determination and resolve to defend the region heightened the challenges faced during the battle for Hamburger Hill. American troops had to climb toward the summit with a renewed determination that seemed to arise with each moment. The rain-soaked, muddy slopes severely restricted their mobility, although the air support provided by helicopters appeared to be a lifeline against the brutal nature of the war. The Vietnamese were well prepared to neutralize this advantage. As American soldiers suffered heavy losses with each assault, they found their courage tested in the struggle to advance. Throughout the 10-day battle, American forces launched several waves of attacks aimed at breaking the NVA's resolute resistance and capturing the hill. However, each assault resulted in heavier casualties than anticipated. In their efforts to ascend the hill, American troops faced intense machine gun fire, mortar shells, and ambushes set by the Vietnamese. While helicopter strikes and air bombardments attempted to dismantle the enemy's defensive positions, the steep terrain diminished the effectiveness of these attacks. As soldiers made their way up the treacherous slopes, they dug in, striving to seize each machine gun nest. However, the Vietnamese forces had established positions at various points on the hill, continuously slowing the American advance. Every moment of combat weighed heavily with the memory of fallen comrades and the unyielding resistance of the enemy. Each ascent was filled with the shadow of life and death. The losses experienced by both sides further strained their resolve, revealing the relentless nature of the conflict. The Hamburger Hill battle unfolded between May 10th and 20th, 1969, through intense clashes in the challenging terrain of the Aishau Valley, involving American and NVA forces. As both sides fought to gain control of the strategically significant hill, the brutal face of war was once again revealed. At the onset of the conflict, American troops felt the presence of NVA soldiers who were well acquainted with the local terrain as they advanced toward Hill 937. The hill, with its slippery slopes and dense vegetation, transformed every step into a perilous endeavor. As they attempted to ascend, machine gun fire erupted unexpectedly. Amid the whirring of bullets, soldiers from both sides instinctively shifted into survival mode while trying to locate the enemy. Every corner of the hill was a potential trap. Booby traps and hidden explosives posed significant threats to both American and NVA forces. The NVA soldiers were determinedly positioned to defend the hill. Equipped with guerrilla tactics, these soldiers had deep roots in the local area and were familiar with their surroundings. Each ambush left American troops under heavy fire, forcing them to contend with the formidable resistance of the enemy. The echoes of exploding bombs and screams heightened the horror of war, enveloping both sides in a cloud of despair. The booby traps set by the NVA further complicated the Americans' advance. Skillfully utilizing the local landscape, the NVA created pitfalls, sharp spikes, and explosives. Each step American soldiers took exposed them to these hidden threats, increasing their casualties. Every soldier caught in a trap experienced not only physical trauma, but also profound psychological distress. The pain of lost comrades served as a stark reminder of the war's devastation. During the Hamburger Hill battle, the Vietnamese showcased the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare tactics through their use of booby traps. By skillfully exploiting the region's natural features, NVA forces established various mechanisms that obstructed the American soldiers' paths and lured them into traps. Open pits, barbed wire traps, explosives, and closing traps instilled a sense of uncertainty and fear with each step the enemy took. As the Americans climbed the hill, they felt as if they were walking through a tunnel of terror. Every soldier stepping on a booby trap faced immense physical and psychological trauma. The sharp spikes and exploding bombs combined with the sorrow of lost friends underscored the war's brutality. As soldiers tried to support one another, the awareness of hidden traps around every corner caused hesitation in their advance. The constant threat of falling victim to a booby trap tested their resolve, representing a moment where courage and endurance were put to the ultimate test. This horror of war indicated that American soldiers had to confront not only physical injuries, but also psychological trauma. As helicopters hovered above to provide air support, they attempted to bombard NVA defenses. However, the steep terrain diminished the effectiveness of these attacks and further emboldened the enemy in protecting their positions. Each American assault resulted in heavy casualties, while the enemy strengthened their defenses and increased their firepower. As soldiers from both sides struggled to advance on blood-soaked ground, casualties continued to undermine morale and motivation. American forces endeavored to rally their courage against the resistance of local troops as they climbed the hill. The machine gun fire and mortar attacks from the NVA rattled both the spirit and bodies of the soldiers. Tactics evolved, with each side developing different strategies to outmaneuver the other. Hamburger Hill was not just a military objective. It symbolized humanity's struggle for survival. Every loss during the conflict heightened the sense of pain and longing between the factions, demonstrating that the horrors of war were relevant not only to one side, but to both. All these conflicts created moments that questioned the resilience of the human spirit and the destructiveness of war. In conclusion, Hamburger Hill etched itself into memory as a piece of history filled with great sacrifices and courage, written in blood. This battle illustrated that war is not merely a military clash, but an arena where the souls and destinies of people confront one another. The Hamburger Hill battle marked a period of immense destruction and loss for American soldiers. The brutal nature of the conflict resulted in the deaths of 56 American soldiers and left over 400 wounded. While the NVA suffered even higher casualties, the American public and media turned these losses into a significant topic of debate. Each fallen soldier underscored the horrors of war, deeply impacting public morale. In the final days of the battle, American forces finally reached the summit of the hill, capturing Hamburger Hill on May 20th, 1969. However, this victory quickly turned into a controversial situation. Shortly after seizing the hill, American troops were forced to abandon it. The bloody struggle for what appeared to be a strategically insignificant hill ignited significant discussions among military leaders and politicians. This led to profound questions about the necessity of the war and the legitimacy of the losses incurred. Hamburger Hill became not just a victory, but also a symbol of the harsh realities of war and the severe toll it exacts. Each casualty raised the stakes of the conflict, challenging the resilience and hope of the human spirit. Hamburger Hill resonated deeply within the American public and media. Soldiers began to view the battle as a futile struggle, since the hill was abandoned shortly after its capture, yielding no strategic gain. This perception significantly contributed to a rapid decline in public support for the Vietnam War and sparked serious questions about its necessity. In the American Congress, the battle became a topic of extensive debate. As criticisms of the war's tactics and objectives grew, the Hamburger Hill battle played a role in strengthening anti-war movements in the American public as the Vietnam War neared its end. The brutal and ruthless nature of the conflict led many to question the legitimacy of the war, resulting in increasing demands for withdrawal from Vietnam. This clash became not only a military engagement, but also a pivotal moment that affected the spirit of a nation. Hamburger Hill emerged as a symbol, prompting reflections on life, death, and the deep scars inflicted by war, transcending mere victory or loss. The Battle of Hamburger Hill serves as a poignant reminder of the true cost of war. The sacrifices made by the soldiers, both American and NVA, echo through history, reminding us of the human toll in the pursuit of victory. Although the hill itself may have been a fleeting objective, the memories of those who fought and fell there remain etched in our consciousness. As we reflect on this battle, we must remember the bravery and sacrifice of the individuals who faced the horrors of war. The lessons learned from Hamburger Hill extend beyond its physical location. They challenge us to examine the nature of conflict and the impact it has on humanity. War is not merely a series of battles. It is an allegorical reflection of humanity's misguided attempts to reach peace through the wrong means. The Battle of Hamburger Hill, one of the most grueling engagements of the Vietnam War, tested not only the soldiers' physical endurance, but also their mental limits. Both sides suffered heavy losses as the hill became a battleground for days of bloody fighting. American soldiers had to repeatedly charge the hill under heavy fire, facing a well-entrenched, determined Vietnamese force. The relentless rain, swamps, and dense jungle only added to the already unbearable conditions of this brutal battle. The impact of Hamburger Hill was not confined to the battlefield. The traumas and horrors experienced by the American soldiers who fought there starkly revealed the harsh realities of war. The victory won on that hill sparked debates back home, raising serious questions about the purpose of the war. Under constant enemy fire, soldiers not only fought for their lives, but also wrestled with the deeper meaning and worth of the war itself. Hamburger Hill had a profound effect on American media. Images and reports of the battle intensified the public's reaction to the war. There was a wave of outrage as people began questioning the necessity of such high losses. Media coverage further eroded public support for the Vietnam War, making this battle a turning point in America's history of involvement in Vietnam. This painful battle illustrated once again how destructive war can be, not only on the front lines, but also in the minds of the public back home. The storm of Hamburger Hill sparked an unrelenting debate in America. It became one of the symbols of the war's futility. The courage of the soldiers was unquestionable, but the scars left on society were just as deep as the battle itself. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. To support our documentary efforts and stay updated on new videos, be sure to join us by subscribing to the channel. Your feedback is valuable to us. Feel free to share your thoughts on this dark chapter of the war. Thank you.